My name is John Harrington, and I'm 27 years old. Until 3 months ago, I was a doctoral student in anthropology at Cambridge University, specializing in Eastern European folklore. What I'm about to share with you isn't research. It's my living nightmare. I've debated whether to tell this story for weeks, but I need someone to know what happened in case I don't survive the next full moon. It began in early October when I traveled to Romania for what should have been routine fieldwork. My dissertation focused on the evolution of supernatural beliefs in isolated Carpathian communities, with particular emphasis on how economic hardship and historical trauma shaped local mythology. I'd spent months planning this trip, arranging to visit several remote villages in Transylvania that had been largely abandoned after the fall of Ceausescu's regime. My university supervisor had warned me about visiting Valea Întunecată, literally Dark Valley, a cluster of homes nestled in a forested ravine about 40 kilometers from Brașov. According to official records, the village had been completely deserted since 1993, but my research indicated that a handful of elderly residents had refused relocation. I was eager to interview them about local legends before their oral histories were lost forever. The rental car agency in Brașov tried to dissuade me from driving to Valea Întunecată. "The roads are terrible, Mr. Harrington," the clerk said, sliding my paperwork across the counter. "And those woods, they are not friendly to outsiders." When I pressed him for details, he muttered something about old superstitions before turning to the next customer. I should have heeded his warning, but academic ambition makes fools of us all. The drive started pleasantly enough. Autumn had painted the Carpathian foothills in brilliant reds and golds. I followed my GPS until the pavement gave way to gravel, then dirt, and finally to what was barely a trail through increasingly dense forest. The rental car, a modest Dacia, struggled with each incline. By late afternoon, I realized I'd made a mistake attempting the journey so late in the day. The forest canopy blocked what little remained of the October sunlight. My GPS lost signal about 5 kilometers from my destination. I continued forward, guided only by occasional wooden markers bearing faded Cyrillic script. When my car finally sputtered to a halt, the undercarriage damaged by an unseen boulder, I found myself stranded as darkness fell. The temperature dropped rapidly. I grabbed my backpack, a flashlight, and my satellite phone, which to my dismay showed no service. With no other options, I decided to continue on foot toward the village. According to my map, it couldn't be more than an hour's walk. 3 hours later, exhausted and increasingly anxious, I spotted a faint glow through the trees. Valea Întunecată appeared before me, a cluster of perhaps 20 stone and wooden structures arranged in a rough semicircle at the base of a steep cliff. Most buildings were clearly abandoned, with collapsed roofs and vegetation reclaiming walls. But 3 structures showed signs of habitation. Dim light flickered behind curtained windows. Relief washed over me. I approached the nearest lit house, a modest stone cottage with smoke curling from its chimney. The wooden door was weathered but solid. I knocked 3 times. No response. I knocked again, louder this time, calling out in my limited Romanian, "Bună seara! Am nevoie de ajutor." "Good evening. I need help." The curtain twitched. I glimpsed a pale face before it disappeared. Then came the unmistakable sound of a bolt being drawn. The door opened 6 inches, revealing an elderly woman with sharp features and eyes so pale they appeared almost colorless in the dim light. She assessed me silently. "English?" I asked hopefully. She nodded almost imperceptibly. "My car broke down," I explained. "I'm a researcher from Cambridge University. I'm studying local folklore." I fumbled for my university ID. She ignored the identification, instead staring intently at my face. "Why did you come here?" Her English was heavily accented but clear. "To learn about the stories from this region, particularly about—" "It is not safe," she interrupted. "Not tonight. Please, I just need shelter until morning. I can pay." I reached for my wallet. Something in the forest behind me howled, distant but distinct. Not a wolf, not quite. The sound carried notes that raised the hair on my neck. Too deliberate, almost speech-like. The woman's eyes widened. She grabbed my arm with surprising strength and pulled me inside, slamming the door and securing 3 separate bolts. "You bring it closer," she hissed, crossing herself. Why would you come during waxing moon? Bring what closer? I asked, confused. Instead of answering, she moved with surprising agility around the small single-room cottage, checking that heavy wooden shutters were secured over each window. The interior was sparsely furnished, a small bed in one corner, a wood stove, a rough wooden table with 2 chairs, and shelves lined with preserved foods and what appeared to be medicinal herbs. My name is Elena, she finally said, gesturing for me to sit. You will stay here tonight. Do not leave until morning, no matter what you hear. Do not look outside. Her intensity unsettled me, but I was grateful for the shelter. Thank you, Elena. I'm John. What did you mean about bringing something closer? She busied herself stoking the fire in the small stove. You walked from the forest road, yes? You crossed the old stone bridge? I nodded. About 3 hours ago. She closed her eyes briefly, as if in pain. Then it has your scent. Another howl pierced the night, noticeably closer. Elena muttered something in Romanian and reached for a jar on the shelf, removing what looked like dried flowers and roots. What has my scent? I pressed. Is there a wolf problem in this area? Not wolf, she said sharply. We have not had true wolves here for decades. She threw the dried plants into a small pot of water, already heating on the stove. The thing in these woods is wrong, created from sin and suffering. I felt a familiar academic excitement despite my fatigue. This was exactly the kind of local superstition I had come to document. You mean a werewolf? A varkolak? The look she gave me could have frozen hellfire. Do not speak its nature aloud. Names have power. She stirred the concoction on the stove. This is the oldest village in the valley. We have endured much. Revolution, war, famine. But some evils are older than nations. She poured the brewing liquid into 2 cups. Drink. It will mask your scent. The beverage was bitter and astringent, but I drank it to be polite. As Elena spoke, she revealed fragments of the village's history. Valea and Tunicata had once been home to over 200 people. During the Ceausescu years, many young people left for cities. After the regime fell, government officials tried to relocate the remaining residents, citing concerns about infrastructure and services. They offered money, apartments in Brasov, Elena said. Most accepted. Only 7 of us remained. Now we are 3. Why stay? I asked. To keep watch, she replied cryptically. To maintain the boundaries. A violent crash against the side of the cottage interrupted her. The entire structure shuddered. Elena froze, her cup halfway to her lips. A grotesque snuffling sound came from just outside the wall, like an enormous animal scenting prey. Then came scraping, as if massive claws were testing the stone. It has never come this close to the houses, Elena whispered. I reached for my phone instinctively, though I knew it had no service. The battery was nearly dead anyway. The creature outside growled, a sound so deep and guttural it seemed to vibrate through the floor. Then came something worse, a sound like words, malformed and painful, as if forced through a throat not designed for human speech. Inter-u-der, it rumbled. Smell you. My blood turned to ice. Elena's face had gone completely white. She grabbed something from beneath her bed, an ancient-looking rifle. Will that stop it? I whispered. No, she replied, but it can slow it down. Another crash, this time against the door. The heavy wooden beam securing it cracked but held. What does it want? I asked, struggling to keep my voice steady. Fresh blood, young flesh. Elena positioned herself between me and the door, rifle raised. It grows stronger each generation, more cunning. The attack on the door stopped. For several minutes, we heard nothing but the crackle of the fire and our own rapid breathing. Then horribly came the sound of movement on the roof. Dust and small debris rained down as something heavy dragged itself across the wooden shingles. The chimney, I realized with dawning horror, the creature was investigating the chimney. Elena had the same realization. She lunged toward the stove and closed the flue, then backed away, eyes fixed on the ceiling. A frustrated howl shook the night, followed by more movement across the roof. Then silence. It is testing, Elena whispered. Learning. We remained frozen in place, listening. Minutes stretched to an hour. The cottage grew uncomfortably warm, with the flue closed. Sweat beaded on my forehead, though I couldn't say whether from heat or terror. "We should contact the others," I suggested. "The other villagers." Elena shook her head. "Mihai has the strongest house. Stone walls, metal roof. Anna," she hesitated. "Anna's cottage is furthest from the forest edge. The creature usually approaches from the north." Usually, the word hung between us. Near midnight, we heard it again, not outside our cottage, but distant. A blood-curdling scream cut through the night. Human, female. "Anna," Elena breathed, closing her eyes. The scream came again, then transformed into a gurgling cry that no one could survive. I moved toward the door instinctively. "No!" Elena blocked my path. "You cannot help her. It is too late." "We have to try," I argued. "Call for help." "There is no help," she said flatly. "No phone service reaches here. Police are 2 hours away when roads are clear." She was right, I knew. But the thought of doing nothing while someone was being slaughtered mere hundreds of meters away was unbearable. "What is this thing?" I demanded. "How do you kill it?" Elena's expression darkened. "It was human once. A man from this village, generations ago, Dragomir Corvus. During the Great Famine of 1887, he turned to dark rituals, cannibalizing his own family to survive. The priest caught him drinking his dying wife's blood and condemned him." She returned to the table, rifle still ready. "They hanged him from the great oak at the forest edge, but his body disappeared that night. 3 days later, the priest was found in pieces. Since then, the creature has haunted these woods." "A man who becomes a monster," I murmured. "Classic werewolf mythology." "Not mythology," Elena hissed. "Every full moon it hunts. Every generation it grows stronger. We who remain are descendants of those who first fought it. We maintain the barriers." "Barriers?" She gestured vaguely toward the forest. "Symbols carved on trees, sacred herbs burned at boundary stones, small magics to keep it contained. But the power fades as we age, as our faith weakens." Throughout the night, we heard the creature moving through the village. Twice it returned to Elena's cottage, testing the walls, the door, the shuttered windows. Each time, Elena muttered prayers in Romanian, clutching both her rifle and a small silver cross. Near dawn, the attack ceased. When sunlight finally pierced the cracks in the shutters, Elena visibly relaxed. "It returns to its lair during daylight," she explained, finally setting down her rifle. "We must check on Mihai, and..." She hesitated. "What remains of Anna?" The morning revealed a scene of devastation. Anna's cottage had been torn apart. The roof was collapsed, walls partially destroyed. Blood spattered what remained of her small garden. Of Anna herself, we found only fragments. A severed hand, tissue and bones scattered across her yard. Elena collected these remains stoically, wrapping them in a clean sheet. Mihai's house stood intact, but the elderly man inside was near collapse from fear. "It tried for hours to break in," he told us in Romanian, which Elena translated. "It has never been so persistent." We spent the day in grim tasks. Elena and Mihai prepared Anna's remains for burial, digging a grave in the small cemetery behind what had once been the village church. I offered to help, but they insisted on handling this themselves. Instead, I examined the destruction at Anna's cottage, trying to understand what we faced. The damage was illuminating and terrifying. Claw marks scored the wooden walls, some gouges nearly 2 inches deep. Door hinges had been torn from their moorings with incredible force. Most disturbing were the bloody paw prints, massive things nearly 18 inches long, but with an almost human-like shape. 5 digits instead of 4, opposable thumbs. I photographed everything, using the last of my phone's battery. These weren't the marks of any known animal. The academic in me, the part still clinging to rational explanation, suggested a bear, perhaps one suffering from disease or deformity. But I couldn't reconcile that with the voice I'd heard, the words it had formed. When we gathered for a meager lunch in Mihai's cottage, I asked the question weighing on me. "Why haven't you reported this? Authorities could hunt this creature, whatever it is." Elena and Mihai exchanged glances. "We have reported," Mihai said through Elena's translation. "Many times. In the Soviet years, officials came with guns. 5 soldiers entered the forest, 2 returned, mad with fear, speaking of demons. During Ceausescu's time, a scientific team came to disprove the peasant superstitions. They set camera traps and stayed in the old forestry station. None survived. The outside world has decided we are crazy old villagers, Elena added, or that we lie for attention. So they leave us alone, which is better. We don't want more deaths. But this creature, this man-wolf, it killed Anna. It will kill again, I insisted. Yes, Elena agreed simply. When the moon grows full, it will hunt. Usually animals, sometimes unlucky travelers. We protect ourselves with the old ways, but we are fewer each year. There must be a way to kill it, I pressed. Mihai spoke rapidly in Romanian. Elena nodded. There are stories, she translated. Silver bullets blessed by a true believer. Beheading with a consecrated blade. Fire, perhaps, if hot enough. But Dragomir was a powerful man in life. In death, his power has only grown. We spent the afternoon reinforcing Mihai's cottage, where we would all stay that night. I helped board windows and block the chimney with a metal grate Mihai had fashioned years ago for this purpose. As we worked, Elena told me more about Valea Tunicata's history and the creature that haunted it. According to village lore, Dragomir Corvus had been more than just a cannibal. He had dabbled in forbidden texts, attempting to summon entities from beyond to grant him power during the famine. Whether he succeeded or whether his transformation was punishment for his sins varied in the telling, but all versions agreed he had become something neither fully man nor animal, bound to the forest surrounding the village. The boundary stones limit his range, Elena explained. He cannot travel beyond the old forest. This is why we stay, to maintain the binding spells. If we all leave, the magic weakens. He could range farther, reach larger villages. It sounded like medieval superstition, yet I had heard the thing speak. I had seen what it did to Anna's cottage. My academic skepticism was rapidly eroding. As dusk approached, we completed our preparations. Mihai's cottage was now a fortress. Every entrance blocked, every window reinforced. He brought out 3 shotguns, handing one to Elena and offering the third to me. I've never fired a gun, I admitted. Point and pull trigger, Elena translated Mihai's instructions. Aim for eyes or throat if you must shoot. It will not kill the beast, but it may drive it away. We ate a small dinner in tense silence as darkness fell. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the shutters. The waxing moon, nearly full, cast silver light through the cracks in our defenses. The attack began just after midnight. First came the howl, closer than ever, just beyond Mihai's small garden. Then heavy footsteps circling the cottage, pausing at each window and door as if assessing our defenses. It remembers, Elena whispered. It learns from last night. A massive form blocked the moonlight coming through a shutter crack. I caught a glimpse of matted fur, a grotesquely elongated snout. Then it moved away. For nearly an hour, we heard only occasional movement outside. False security began to settle over me. Perhaps the creature had given up, seeking easier prey elsewhere. Then the roof creaked. It's climbing up, I whispered. Mihai pointed to the ceiling beams, thick oak trunks supporting the slate roof. Strong, he said in heavily accented English. We'll hold. But the creature wasn't trying to break through the roof. Instead, we heard the distinctive sound of debris being moved. Then Mihai's eyes widened in realization. The chimney, he shouted, lunging toward the fireplace. Too late. We had blocked the flue with the metal grate, but the creature had removed enough of the stone chimney above to create a gap. Something large and dark plummeted down the chimney shaft, smashing through the grate with frightening force. It landed in a crouch amid the fireplace ash and straightened to its full height, well over 7 feet tall. The sight defied everything I understood about biology and evolution. It had a wolf's head but stretched wrongly, the muzzle too long, the eyes too forward-facing. Its body was a grotesque hybrid, torso almost human but covered in patchy gray-black fur, massive shoulders supporting arms too long for its frame, ending in near-human hands with yellowed claws instead of fingernails. Its legs bent backward at the knee like a wolf's, ending in massive pawed feet that explained the prints I'd seen. Most disturbing was the intelligence in its amber eyes as it surveyed us. This was no mindless beast. There was calculation in its gaze, ancient hatred in its posture. Lassest ones, it growled, voice like stone grinding on metal. Village mine now. Mihai fired his shotgun directly into the creature's chest. The blast should have dropped any living thing, but the werewolf only staggered back a step, snarling. Dark blood oozed from the wound, but the damage seemed superficial. Elena screamed something in Romanian, a prayer or curse, and fired her weapon. This shot caught the creature in the shoulder, spinning it halfway around. With shocking speed, it recovered and lunged at Mihai. I raised my shotgun but couldn't fire without hitting the old man. Claws flashed in the lantern light. Mihai screamed as his chest was laid open in 4 parallel gashes. Elena fired again, catching the beast in the back of its misshapen skull. This shot had effect. The creature howled in pain and whirled toward her. Blood and matted fur flew from its wound. I finally found my courage and fired. At such close range, the shot tore into the werewolf's thigh. It stumbled, snarling, then leapt with impossible strength, crashing through the cottage window and into the night. Mihai lay dying. His wounds were catastrophic, ribcage exposed, blood pumping from severed arteries. Elena knelt beside him, pressing futilely against the wounds, murmuring in Romanian. He spoke weakly, eyes already glazing. Elena listened, nodding solemnly. Within minutes, he was gone. What did he say? I asked, still trembling with adrenaline. He said we must end it, Elena replied, gently closing Mihai's eyes. The 3 remaining guardians are now 1. When I die, there will be no one to maintain the boundaries. The creature will be free to roam beyond our valley. She stood, remarkably composed despite the blood covering her hands. There is another way. Dragomir's remains. His remains? His human remains. When he transformed, his human body died. It was buried in unhallowed ground, near the old silver mine. If we burn the bones with sacred herbs and silver, perform the rituals of cleansing, it might break the curse. Might? I repeated. No one has tried, she admitted. It was forbidden to disturb the grave, for fear of strengthening the curse. But we have no choice now. The boundary stones weaken. The creature grows bold enough to attack our homes. She began gathering supplies, a lantern, a small shovel, a pouch of herbs, her shotgun. We must go now, while it licks its wounds. The burial site is an hour's walk from here. Elena, I said gently, we both shot it multiple times. It's still dangerous. We should wait for daylight. No time, she insisted. The creature will heal by dawn, and Mihai's body. She glanced at her friend's corpse. It will return for him. They always come back for the dead if they can. The thought of that thing feeding on Mihai's body decided me. I reloaded the shotgun with the shells Elena provided. We covered Mihai with a blanket, said brief prayers, and slipped out of the cottage. The night was clear and cold, the waxing moon illuminating our path. Elena led the way confidently despite her age, following a narrow trail that wound away from the village and up into the forested hills. How will we find this grave? I whispered as we climbed. After so many years. It is marked, she replied, a warning to others. Black stone, carved with symbols to contain evil. The elders maintained it, refreshing the markings each generation. We walked in tense silence, every sense straining for signs of pursuit. The forest felt malevolent, watchful. Twice we froze at sounds in the undergrowth, but nothing emerged. After nearly an hour of climbing, we reached a small plateau. At its center stood a crude stone marker, perhaps 4 feet tall, covered in worn carvings. The ground around it was barren, no grass, no underbrush, just packed dirt and scattered stones. Unhallowed ground, Elena explained, setting down her lantern. Nothing grows where great evil lies. We began digging beside the marker. The earth was surprisingly soft, yielding easily to our tools. We had cleared perhaps 3 feet of soil when my shovel struck something solid. Careful now, Elena cautioned, dropping to her knees. She brushed away dirt with her hands, revealing a simple wooden coffin, partially collapsed with age but remarkably intact. The wood should have rotted away decades ago, I observed. Evil preserves itself, she replied grimly. Using the shovel as leverage, I pried open what remained of the coffin lid. The wood parted with a sickening crack. Inside lay a skeleton, complete except for the skull, which was missing. "Where's the head?" I asked. Elena's expression was grim. "The beast keeps its human skull, part of the ritual that binds man and wolf. It is likely hidden in its lair." She began preparing for the ritual, sprinkling herbs over the bones and placing small silver coins in the eye sockets, mouth position, and over the heart. "Without the skull, will this work?" I asked. "Perhaps not completely," she admitted, "but it should weaken the creature, possibly enough that silver might then kill it." She instructed me to gather wood for a fire. As I collected fallen branches at the edge of the clearing, a twig snapped in the forest behind me. I whirled, shotgun raised. Nothing visible in the moonlight, but I could feel eyes watching. "Elena," I called softly. "I think—" A massive form crashed through the underbrush, moving faster than anything its size should. The werewolf launched itself at me, claws extended. I fired reflexively, the blast catching it in the chest mid-leap. The creature landed just short of me, snarling in pain and rage. Its wounds from earlier were crusted with dried blood, but already healing. The fresh shotgun blast had torn a hole in its chest, exposing bone and tissue, yet it rose again, amber eyes fixed on me with murderous intent. "The bones!" Elena screamed. "Get to the bones!" I backed toward the grave, firing again. This shot went wide as the creature dodged with preternatural speed. It circled around, trying to flank me. Elena had produced a silver dagger and stood over the skeleton, chanting in what sounded like Latin mixed with an older tongue. The werewolf howled, not in anger, but in something that sounded terrifyingly like fear. It lunged, not at me, but at Elena. I threw myself into its path, and we collided with bone-crushing force. Claws raked my side, tearing through jacket and flesh alike. Pain exploded across my ribs. We tumbled to the ground, the creature's massive weight driving the breath from my lungs. Jaws snapped inches from my face, fetid breath washing over me. I jammed the shotgun barrel under its chin and pulled the trigger. The blast should have removed its head. Instead, it tore away fur and flesh, exposing a horrific sight. Beneath the wolf-like exterior was human bone structure, malformed and enlarged but recognizably human. The creature howled in agony, pinning me with one massive paw while the other clutched at its mangled jaw. "Curse!" It gurgled through the wound, words somehow still possible. "Not so, ass." Behind it, Elena had lit the herbs and bones. Flames unnaturally bright and blue engulfed the skeleton. The werewolf screamed, a sound of such primal anguish it seemed to vibrate the air itself. It released me, whirling toward the grave. Elena stood her ground, silver dagger raised. With a swipe of its massive arm, the creature sent her flying. She struck the stone marker with a sickening thud and collapsed. The werewolf leapt toward the burning bones, clearly intent on extinguishing the ritual fire. I dragged myself up, pain lancing through my torn side, and tackled it from behind. We crashed into the grave together, toppling into the burning skeleton. Blue flames licked at the creature's fur. It howled and thrashed, trying to escape, but I clung desperately to its back. My hands found the silver coins Elena had placed on the bones. I grabbed one and drove it into the creature's eye with all my strength. The werewolf's scream split the night. It bucked me off with such force that I flew several meters through the air. I landed hard, feeling ribs crack. Through a haze of pain, I watched as the creature clawed at its face, where the silver coins smoked and sizzled in its flesh. "Curse you!" it roared, voice more human than wolf now. "Centuries I have waited." Dragging itself from the grave, it fixed its remaining eye on me. "Your flesh eyes will heal me." It began to stalk forward, movements jerky in pain but still lethal. Elena appeared behind it. Somehow she had regained consciousness and retrieved her dagger. With a strength belying her age, she plunged the silver blade into the base of the creature's skull. The werewolf arched backward, a sound like no earthly creature escaping its throat. Elena held on grimly, twisting the blade deeper. The creature's body began to convulse, fur receding in patches to reveal sickly, grayish skin beneath. "Return to dust," Elena commanded, voice suddenly strong and resonant. Dragomir Corvus, your time has ended. The transformation accelerated, fur falling away in clumps, limbs contorting and shrinking. Within moments, what thrashed on the ground was not a wolf creature, but a withered human form, naked and ancient, skin like parchment stretched over bone. It fixed roomy human eyes on me. Not finished, it rasped in perfect Romanian. Then the body collapsed inward like a dried husk, crumbling to dust that the wind immediately began to scatter. Elena fell to her knees exhausted. I crawled to her side, pressing my jacket against a wound on her temple. "Is it over?" I asked. She nodded weakly. "The curse is broken. Dragomir returns to the earth." She touched my wounded side gently. "But you are marked now?" "Marked?" "It's blood mixed with yours in the struggle. It's saliva in your wounds." Her eyes held infinite sadness. "The curse is broken, but a seed remains. In you." Ice formed in my stomach. "Are you saying I'll become like that thing?" "Not like Dragomir. His evil was his own creation. But the beast nature, yes, it may grow in you." She gripped my hand. "You must come back with me. Learn the containment rituals. Prepare yourself." Dawn broke over the mountains as we made our slow, painful journey back to the village. Elena bound my wounds with herbs that burned and stung, but slowed the bleeding. Neither of us spoke much, both lost in contemplation of what had happened, what was still to come. At the village, we buried Mihai beside Anna in the small cemetery. Elena taught me the first of many protective chants, showed me how to prepare the herbs that might help control what grew inside me. I stayed in Valea and Tunicata for another week, recovering from my injuries and learning all Elena could teach me. The physical wounds healed with unnatural speed, confirming her worst fears. "You must return before the full moon," she instructed when I finally prepared to leave. "Here I can help you through the first transformation, teach you to control it." I nodded, though uncertainty gnawed at me. Part of me still hoped this was elaborate folklore, that my rapid healing was simply good fortune. I write this account from my apartment in Cambridge. 3 days remain until the full moon. Tomorrow I fly back to Romania, back to Elena and her ancient knowledge. I don't know what awaits me, whether I can contain what grows inside me, whether I'll become a guardian like Elena or a monster like Dragomir. But I know this: the legends are real. The boundaries between human and beast, between life and death, are thinner than modern minds can comprehend. And somewhere in the dark forests of Transylvania, ancient evils still linger, waiting for the unwary. If you're reading this and I haven't returned to update it, stay away from Valea and Tunicata. Respect the old warnings. Some forgotten places deserve to remain forgotten. The moon rises soon, and I can already feel it calling to something inside me.